Welcome to the Voice of Retail podcast. My name is Michael LeBlanc, and I am your host. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Retail Council of Canada. In this episode, meet Bobby Sahni, a veteran of multicultural marketing with over 20 years of experience. Bobby discusses his journey from corporate roles in banking and telecommunications, we work together at Rogers, to his current role as leader at Ethnicity Matters, a Toronto-based multicultural marketing agency. He emphasizes the importance of understanding Canada's demographic shifts and integrating multicultural strategies into mainstream business practices. Bobby highlights that multiculturalism is now mainstream and should be central to growth strategies, and in fact is the growth strategy in Canada. He also shares insights into the diverse needs of newcomers and the critical role of first impressions of retail marketing. Bobby is set to speak at the upcoming Retail Council of Canada's Retail Marketing Conference, and he will preview what he will be discussing on the main stage. He'll be covering data-driven strategies and share examples of successful multicultural marketing campaigns. Let's listen in now. Bobby, welcome to the Voice Retail Podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
It has been a minute since you and I last spoke or talked together. We worked together at Rogers. You are really a foundational part of a big part of marketing there. So it's great to hear your voice again.
Absolutely. It's been a long time. Nice to reconnect with old friends.
Fantastic. And where am I finding you today? Where are you sitting?
I'm at my office at the Ethnicity Matters headquarters, which is at 4100 Yonge Street, right at Yonge and York Mills.
Oh, fantastic. Now, do you spend, as an agency, pre or post pandemic, do you spend a lot of time in the office? How do you mix that up with your people? I always ask this question. Everybody's got a slightly different approach, you know?
Well, interesting enough, we moved into a brand spanking new office, new furniture, new paint, new decor, and this was in early 2020, and of course that's when COVID hit. So our office essentially sat brand spanking new for about 2 years, and then only in the last year or so we come in about 2 days a week right now, and everybody seems to like the flexibility of get a little bit of time to yourself at home, but it's good to reconnect with friends and colleagues as well at work. So I think we've got a nice balance going here.
It's a good way to bring new people into the business too, right? That was really tough during COVID. Everybody sitting at home, right?
And just the energy that we are a very multicultural company, 98% visible minority, 75% foreign born. So you can imagine the diversity within our office and just the energy and great food that we have in the office as well. So please come visit anytime.
Fantastic. All right. So we're gathered here today, so to speak. You're going to be on the main stage at Retail Council's Retail Marketing Conference. So I wanted to get a bit of a introduction to you for the people and a bit about what we'll be talking about. But we've already kind of dove in a bit, but tell us a little bit about your professional and personal journey and your background.
Absolutely. Well, firstly, I'm a multicultural marketing nerd. And what that means is I've spent over 20 years of my career helping corporate Canada and various organizations connect with the multicultural and new immigrant communities. So what I've done from the day I graduated university till now, spent the first 10 years on the corporate or client side of the business, all different industries, lottery and gaming in Sault Ste. Marie, banking, telecommunications, as you mentioned, where I was the head of multicultural marketing at Rogers for a number of years and spent a little bit of time in media as well with the Toronto Star, and the last 11 plus years with Ethnicity Matters, which is a multicultural marketing and advertising agency based in Toronto, serving clients right across Canada and the U.S. So that's
what's unique about Ethnicity Matters. I mean, it's so interesting. When you say it out loud, 20 years of doing this work, still more work to be done. It's still an exciting place. But talk about the agency and how what makes you different from conventional agencies. Like it strikes me that doesn't every agency think about this, but I'm not sure it's the case.
I'll go back. I'll take a step back first and set the table with the fact that we've got a massive demographic shift going on in this country. Canada is changing. If you look around us, you look at the foods we eat, the places we shop, the holidays we celebrate, the music we listen to, the content we watch, even the sports that we consume. Undeniably, we know that Canada is changing. We all know that we've got an aging population. We all know that we don't have enough babies in this country. And for those reasons, immigration is actually a growth strategy for the country. Now, our fundamental belief is that if immigration is a growth strategy for the country, it needs to be a growth strategy for every single company as well. And like I said, I mean, that's what I had done for the first 10 years of my career, really helping, the companies that I work for understand that there was this demographic shift going on. And with this shift, there comes changes in preferences as well. Changes in preferences are going to affect supply and demand. So understanding these macro fundamentals is really what makes businesses and marketers savvy to new growth opportunities.
Would you say the first part of your career was articulating that there's an opportunity here, and the second part that you're in now is like, okay, how do we take advantage of the opportunity, or how do we maximize the opportunity? Has it kind of been in phases like that from your perspective?
I would say it probably not so. Chapter 1, chapter 2. I wish it was that easy. I'd say continuing. 50% of my week, on any given week, is spent on educating. And I love educating. I love, as you'll see at the conference, I love speaking engagements and just sharing my thoughts and knowledge on this topic. But I think what I like to think of us all as we're all on a journey, and none of us have mastered this journey, especially when it comes to tapping into this growth of the changing face of Canada. We're all on a journey, and that journey continues to change as well. So I myself continue to learn as well. I don't have mastery of the subject by any means, but we're all on this path, and we continue to learn. And I'd say, yeah, absolutely. The first 10 plus years of my career, I was that guy in the room that was constantly talking about this, and a lot of times I had people looking at me, just with a blank stare. What is this guy talking about? But fast forward, a lot of those folks now, these have become colleagues and clients of mine because, we're all on the same page now, and we all see where the growth is coming from.
And what makes your approach as an agency different? Like that first meeting or that first conversation with a prospective client, what is it that you say, listen, we're different than you may already have an AOR, you may already have an agency, and we look at things different. What's your kind of approach to articulating that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we are strategy first. We are strategy before tactics. We fundamentally believe that data, I'll say this, we don't have to guess anymore. When I started 20 years ago, a lot of the work I did was really based on gut. It was based on feelings more than the facts. But now we have so much data at our disposal that we can start with the facts. That data is really the building blocks of the strategy, and that strategy is obviously fundamental to driving growth. I think what makes us different really might be cliche to say, but we are truly one-stop shop, and I'd say solution agnostic. And what that means is, if you're going to a creative agency, they're going to try and sell you creative. If you go to a research firm, they're going to try and sell you research. If you go to a media agency, and so on and so forth. When you come to us, we're really looking to figure out solutions for our clients. And in some cases, that might be a great retail activation. In other cases, it might be a PR initiative. We've done product development. We have a sister agency focused on research. So really a solution agnostic approach, and really working with our partners on driving solutions that are going to drive growth at the end of the day.
We're living in a time when retailers, I guess they all, but particularly now, everybody's looking about growth, thinking about growth. Discretionary income and spending is hard to come by. So these new customers are very intriguing to us as an industry. As you said, there's been a massive increase in literally in the millions of new Canadians. How do you think about, and what's your advice around the first impressions? Is there still a school of thought? Listen, my broad-based marketing will capture these people sooner or later. But is there an advantage to being, what do we call it, like a first mover? How do you think about that?
I think with retail, I mean, first of all, we have to recognize that when we look at multiculturalism in Canada and we look at the growth of newcomers in Canada, this is no longer a strategy for growth. This is the strategy for growth
Well
in
put.
most cases. This is no longer a case of, well, this is what we're going to do for the masses, and this is what we're going to do in a silo for multicultural communities or newcomer communities. Increasingly, we have to integrate that thinking because multicultural is mainstream. That is something I will say time and time again. And working with various clients and retailers, they may have a win Ontario strategy or let's win BC strategy. Well, I would argue that a win Ontario strategy is a win multicultural strategy as well. You can't really decouple the two. You can't really think in silos. In terms of the first impressions, I think what's more important first for a brand is to really know your strengths and your weaknesses. You could be a global retailer, and you have to understand, well, what do you mean? What is the cultural relevance to these audiences that we're trying to reach? If you are a global brand, well, maybe your positioning or your message to them is all about being able to provide that comfort from home or a brand that you recognize and trusted from back home, also available in Canada. If you are a Canadian brand, which arguably a newcomer has never heard of, well, you've got a strategy and strength there as well, given that there is a willingness to try new brands. And this is your opportunity to roll out the welcome mat for these consumers as well. So I fundamentally believe first impressions absolutely essential, but it's really understanding, what side of the fence are you on and what does your brand or your offering really mean to this consumer? And it starts with really knowing yourself.
What do traditional campaigns or retail campaigns get wrong about ethnic marketing here in Canada?
I'd say not recognizing the diversity within diversity. If we talk about newcomers as an example, we can't assume that all newcomers can be painted with the same brush. There is a spectrum. There's one end of the spectrum where newcomers may require assistance in certain cases. The other end of the spectrum, newcomers can provide assistance. You look at different ethnic communities. The South Asian community, as an example, there are many, many, many languages, religions, cultures. We can't assume that these are homogeneous groups. So I'd say not recognizing that there is diversity within diversity, but I think to counter that as well, the next question would be, well, what are we supposed to do? We can't have 100 different campaigns for 100 different consumers. I think the art and the science, though, of multicultural marketing is really understand what are the common denominators across different groups of people, whether you are looking at immigration by tenure, whether you're looking at different regional differences across communities. What are the different common denominators that we can actually start to look at consumers and aggregate them together based on certain common traits and commonalities?
So what, as I said off the top, what brings us together here on the mic is we're going to be together at the Retail Marketing Conference, Retail Council of Canada's conference. Give us a sneak peek. What are you going to be doing and what are you going to be discussing on the stage?
Yeah, look, I'm all about facts and feelings, right? I mean, I'm not about to hit everybody with half an hour worth of stats and saying, well, there you go, figure it out now. For me, it's always starting with the data, presenting data, but really contextualizing as well. So I would say in that session, a lot of different nuggets, a lot of learning, but a lot of context, and I think a lot of parallels, irrespective of what company you work for, what industry you're in, what part of the country you may operate in, or even outside of the country. I think there's going to be a lot of commonalities and parallels and learnings for the audience. I love to share examples as well. Yeah. Some of them are examples that I have worked on personally. Others are just, like I said, I'm a nerd for the topic and really based on observation. So I think a lot of examples and thought starters and hopefully a breath of fresh air for anyone that's joining our session.
Now, you're going to be on the stage with, I think it's IKEA, right? Is it a little bit of a case study for the people?
I believe what we're going to do is almost like a fireside chat format. Okay. So we'll have a bit of discussion with one another. Maybe we'll interview one another. But like I said, we're going to be showcasing examples as well. And I've been following the work of IKEA for many years now, and excited to see some of the work that they're going to share with the audience as well.
They're a great example of one of those things you were saying, right? An international company that may be familiar already, and how do you introduce yourself here in the country? So that's a great example of that. All right, so listen, how do people, are you a LinkedIn person? How do people get in touch with you, learn more about your agency? Where do they go?
I am a power LinkedIn user. I guess that's what they're called. I keep on getting these little badges and notifications. But yeah, love LinkedIn. I love connecting with new people. So please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can also email me anytime, bobby@ethnicitymatters.com, and visit our website, which is under construction, but you'll get the idea of what we're all about. That is ethnicitymatters.com.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Bobby, it's great to catch up and great to hear your voice again, and looking forward to seeing you in person, IRL, as the kids would say.
Oh, wow.
coming up in September. So thanks again for joining me here on the Voice of Retail podcast. I wish you congratulations on your success, wishing you continued success, and thanks again for joining me on the pod.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Voice of Retail. If you haven't already, follow on your favorite podcast platform so new episodes will land automatically each week. And be sure and check out my other retail industry media properties, the Remarkable Retail Podcast with Steve Dennis and the Global E-Commerce Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Michael LeBlanc, Senior Retail Advisor, Keynote Speaker. If you want more content or chat, follow me on LinkedIn. Safe travels, everyone.